5, 1975 was the hardest working day of my life and the most rewarding. Operation BabyLift adoptees have added a rich and loving tapestry to each and every culture into which they were adopted. I was in tears as little babies were handed to me, one after another. Their little overheated bodies so light, I thought they were all newborns. We were later told they were probably 5 to 6 months old. We prepared many bottles of milk and put together many bassinets of cardboard covered in Pan Am blue on the way into Saigon. But until 295 infants fill them, you just have no idea. I've never had to do my job with tears in my eyes before. And then, well over 100 children between the ages of 2 and 12. The telegram that rerouted some of us stewardesses from Hong Kong said 100. The heroics of our station manager, Alan Topping, added quite a few more. I believe our total was about 700. Many of these children had leg braces, were on crutches. All were pressed to the windows, crying their hearts out. The babies were wailing. Our captain took our plane out of there like a rocket ship. The cabin cooled, babies found their thumbs and fell asleep from sheer exhaustion. We had big barrels of clean clothing for all ages and plenty of diapers. We served hamburgers to the older children. And as I wrote in Reader's Digest, a process, this is getting old and wrinkled, it's 1976. Not as old and wrinkled as I am, but close. I wrote in Reader's Digest a process in which a formidable stewardess's nightmare became reality, and all you that are stewardesses will identify with this. Accustomed to clear aisles with passengers obediently seated while we balance our food trays, we now had to high step over midget bodies crawling in the aisles and take innumerable tackles from small, hard torsos wanting a hug, not a hamburger. They were so affectionate. My flight, which 3 of us stewardesses here tonight were on, as well as at least a few of you adoptees, landed in Seattle. A few of you adoptees that landed in Seattle. We were part of the crew that took you out of Saigon, and we got off at Guam. You babies and older children stayed on that airplane for many, many, many more hours as the 747 made its way across the wide Pacific. At each stop, people rushed aboard to tend you, to keep you alive. Your final destination, the families who became truly your lifeblood. I call them the quiet moral sea. People who stepped up with open, loving arms as the horror that is war was denied your extinction. I am honored to have been a small part of this very epic, traumatic, life-changing journey you adoptees have been on. I am honored that Pan Am, my employer at the time, did the right thing and provided a way out of so much death and destruction. Well, Carol was a little tiny baby that I probably held in my arms, and then I put her into her bassinet, which was shared with probably 2 other babies under a seat. And
the cardboard box baby.
Cardboard box baby. She calls me her in-flight, calls us her in-flight mommies.
Yes.
And they just kept handing us babies. We put them in bassinets under the seats. We put them under seat belts, 3 under a seat belt. Just kept handing us babies. Never seen anything like it.
I bet it was really loud that day with all the crying and the hungry children.
It was very loud, but once we took off and got up at altitude and it got cool in there, the babies did quiet down. You guys were exhausted. You were probably hydrated and exhausted, and a lot of you fell asleep. Thank heavens. And then there was all those older children in the back.
Yes.
And they calmed down too, and they got happy.
They did. They were all crying at first, and
Yeah.
they were so scared.
Oh yeah, and they all pressed to
calmed
the
down.
windows.
That's right. And I took the babies from the buses they came in, up to the airplane, up the stairs.
You went down to the buses and got
Yes,
them.
yeah.
Wow. I was just at the door.
Yeah, and it was very touching because the people working at the halls, they didn't want to give them up. They were so attached to some of them.
Oh.
They
You were taking them from their
They were
arms.
crying. They said, "Oh, please take care of." And I said, "And I promise somebody to take good care of her." Yes. So you get very attached. It's very sentimental, you know.
How did you get to go down in the bus? I remember they told me, don't go down, you stay here. But I guess that was your assignment. You were
It
a
was my
purser.
assignment.
No, you were a stewardess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but that was your assignment.
It was my assignment, and my friend Gunilla, also from Sweden. I mean, she took them up when they were upstairs. She took care of them from there.
So you
Brought
just,
them
how
in.
many did you bring up? Did you do that whole loading period of
Yeah.
taking babies
Yeah.
from the buses?
And sometimes somebody was standing at the bottom of the steps and brought them up.
I see.
And sometimes I brought them all the way up.
Because they would be handing to me at the door, and then I'd go over, find a place to put them, and then I'd turn around and go back to the door, and somebody had brought me another baby, and I'd turn around and I'd go. So I was working in that first section of the 747, not the first class, but that first business section or whatever we call it.
And then I think the children that were on the crash the day before, that came on our flight, they came on the later, and I was already up in the cabin by then, and that was so touching.
And you knew they were
see.
from that crash.
Yes.
See, I forgot that. I didn't
Yes,
know we knew
because
that.
when we came to Guam, I bought the newspaper, and I said those kids were in my section. And I said, I never forget them. I will never forget them. I wish I knew who they were.
So traumatized, weren't they?
Yeah.
See if they've got our timeline. Let's find 1975.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, here we are.
67.
Yeah.
And they have it on the wall.
Yep.
My name's Thuy. In 1975, around 3,000 children were saved from war-torn Vietnam in a joint endeavor to save kids known as Amerasians, children born of Vietnamese mothers and American fathers. The rescue effort was called Operation BabyLift, and the first plane on the 4th of April crashed, ending the lives of 143 people. My mom actually took me up the steps of that plane, made sure I was settled, and then went home. She didn't know that the plane was overfull, and I was removed from it and put on the plane the next day. She actually was told that I died on that plane. The rescued children were taken to many countries, including Germany, Australia, France, Canada, and the United States. I came out of Vietnam at the age of 5 on the Pan Am flight of 5 April 1975, which we are here to honor. When I look back on my life, I can see the biggest pivotal point of it was that plane ride. People ask me if I remember my life in Vietnam, and my answer is always yes. I remember the poverty, the hunger, and the death. The worst memory of my childhood in Vietnam was watching as people were shot to death right in front of me. Yes, I remember the plane ride, and of reading a book to my seatmate. I remember talking to a soldier as he helped me get my seatbelt on. And yes, I do remember meeting my new family for the first time. Because of that plane ride, I am alive today and flourishing. I have lived a life, as they say, well lived. I was taken to Portland, Oregon, where I grew up. My parents met my plane. Also, they were expecting a 6-month-old, not a 5-year-old. Yeah. So my parents met my plane and had only planned to be my foster parents, but they later adopted me. I grew up in a white family as a half Vietnamese and a half black child. Were there obstacles that I had to overcome because of this? Yes. But this only made me a stronger person and one who knew who she was. It also helped me to be able to counsel and mentor traumatized and hurting kids and adults because of my experiences. What are my memories of America those first few years? Learning to use a flush toilet, learning to fold laundry, and the best thing ever, TV. To this day, I'm a non-recovering movieaholic. My mom says I flooded the bathroom a time or two playing with this new thing called running water. And every kid's dream, pizza. I remember not being hungry, wet, or dirty for the first time in my life. I remember going to school and learning English from my classmates. And no, not all the words were good. I learned to play games like kickball and soccer and made friends. Many of those young friends are still my confidants and biggest supporters to this day. Because of brave people, heroes who stepped out to save the lives of children like me, I have had the opportunity to accomplish much in life. I played in the Junior World Cup for soccer as a high schooler, served this country that I love as a tank mechanic in the Army for 8 years. I've been a missionary and lived in Africa. I've traveled to 23 countries as a missionary, soccer coach, speaker, and mentor. I've organized and led around 30 humanitarian and missionary trips to impoverished countries around the world to do medical clinics, sports clinics, and community service projects to help others. I coach high school track, high school soccer, and college lacrosse. I'm a motivational speaker. I own 2 businesses and then the president of a nonprofit called Breaking Boundaries. I'm also the general manager and strength and conditioning coach of the first ever Ugandan women's national lacrosse team, who themselves are making history. They will be the first African team to make it to the World Championships this June, paving the way for women's lacrosse to be added as an event in the 2028 Olympics. Through an unusual set of circumstances, I found my birth mom in Vietnam in 2001. I made the trip back to Vietnam to meet her, which was a very traumatic experience. My mom lived in a tin hut with no running water and no electricity. Seeing her in such poverty was a gut punch to me. For her, I had come back from the dead, and her joy at finding me was a mother's joy. For me, I had never wanted to return to Vietnam, ever, and the trauma of being back destroyed the experience for me. I came back to the US emotionally broken after confronting my past. With the help of my friend Jody, I went through the process of healing from a life as a small child and the things I had seen. In 2009, Jody accompanied me back to Vietnam, where we went to all the places that I remembered seeing and experiencing traumas. The last place we ended up was at the airport where I flew out. I thought of all the children who hadn't made it out of Vietnam to safety, and about all those children that had died on the plane the day before I left. I stood at the airport and I cried for all of those children. At that moment, God gave me a vision of an angel taking my hand and leading me down off that plane and holding my hand and leading me up the steps of the Pan Am plane the next day. God reminded me that He saved my life for a reason and that my life had purpose. In 2020, I found my father's side of the family and now have found 8 half-sisters. One just lives 4 hours away from me, and we have become very close. I now have numerous nieces and nephews, and I even have 2 grandnieces and a grandnephew, which makes me feel very old. I would probably have died in that war-torn country as a 5-year-old, and nothing in my life would have been possible if it were not for Operation BabyLift. I urge everyone to be a positive light to others. Make a difference in your part of the world. Whether you are a stay-at-home mom, raising your children, a school teacher, a coach, a pilot, a nurse, whatever you do in life, do it well, and do it to positively influence those around you. Your sacrifices pave the way to save lives. You might one day be saving the life of a little Thuy. Thank you to the managers, the pilots, the crews, the nurses, the doctors, and everyone else who participated in Operation BabyLift, despite the danger to themselves. Thank you for giving my life of adventure and service to others. And may we never forget the sacrifices you made to save us. Thank you.
My name is Carol A. Mason. My Vietnamese given name was Na Thi Nguyen. I came over on Operation BabyLift on April 5th in 1975 when I was 5.5 months old. My mother, Moi Thi Nguyen, left me in the hospital in Saigon after giving birth to me. I waited and waited, and no relatives ever came for me. The hospital turned me over to the Holt Nutrition Center orphanage in January of 1975. I was scheduled to be adopted through Holt to an American family in Pennsylvania who received a call just only 2 days prior that they needed to be at the John F. Kennedy Airport in New York for my arrival on Tuesday. They were given instructions to bring their IDs, bottles, diapers, and clothes. My parents wanted a baby so much and tried for years to have one. I knew from the time I could talk that I was adopted. I became an American citizen at age 3. This was a wonderful day for me, with a new dress, an American flag, and dinner celebrating that I was now a citizen. I was excited to go to McDonald's and sit in the train for dinner. This was one of my favorite meals. Growing up as a kid was everything but normal. I grew up primarily in a white community, being the only Asian. What I knew as a kid was that I was different from others. No matter what I did, what I said, I stood out. No one understood where I came from or why I was here. I am an American citizen, just like you, with darker skin and dark hair. I was asked often, where are your real parents? As most kids, my parents gave me all they could. Family vacations, loving memories, lots of time spent with family, and support for every activity I was in, with, of course, many hugs and love. However, I still felt alone because I just wanted to fit in. I knew I looked different, but why did that matter? I was given my adoption file at age 16, but I never looked for family until I was a grown adult. I am still hopeful and searching. Later in life, in the high school years, I realized I was very talented in many areas and I excelled in school. I made many friends and found it easy to talk to people. Being an only child, I had always longed for great connections with people who could understand who I was. I am just an ordinary human, no more special than anyone else, just the average gal, just someone who wanted to live and enjoy life, be successful, and strive to be the best. As an adult, I have embraced my journey, and now I don't want to fit in. My greatest attribute in life is that I am unique and beautiful, and I know success comes from the inside. Being different is who I am. I put my heart and soul in all I do, no matter how hard or how tough it may be. I still strive for answers. Every so often, I scroll through Facebook and social media, typing my mother's name, hoping to find someone who looks just like me. Of course, DNA results came up with nothing so far. My goal in life has been to raise a loving family, treat others with kindness, and for my children to know without a doubt, I am here, they are loved, and Mom is their biggest fan. They never have to question their existence. Life is truly made of the experiences you have and how well you've gotten through them. Not every story is pretty, and some adoptee stories are quite awful. But for me, setting goals and knowing I was abandoned has been my reason enough to stay focused and positive. Sure, I have my bad days sometimes, don't we all? My blessing has been my inner strength to turn all the hurt and unknown into inspiration to help others. Whether you smile or say nothing, or you sing from a mountaintop, that's your story, your anthem. Be proud and live it. Over the years, I have made some amazing connections with former Pan Am stewardesses and many adoptees. When I was 26, my dying mother saw an article in a magazine and asked, "Why are you in that picture?" I then wrote to the magazine and contact with the stewardess was made. My dear mom died a year later. My connection over the years with both adoptees and stewardesses has been a privilege and an extended family that I now have. One Pan Am flight attendant retired last year after 54 years of service. She flew until last year. I have made many great friends that I consider to be my airlift mothers, brothers, and sisters. We've shared dinners, small vacations, gatherings, and they have been in attendance to my wedding, along with the daily chats and conversations. Life with a husband and kids and 5 kids have taught me that life never slows down. Embrace my journey, my personal connections, and network when given the opportunity. I know that life is truly a gift. Make a difference daily. And if I look back and answer the question that has been asked of me many times, what does it mean to an adoptee? I would answer like this. Being an adoptee has been a blessing overall, from all the awful struggles to the heartfelt connections. I am alive and well. I was given a chance for a difference and a better life for a reason and purpose. I live and embrace that opportunity every day. I strive for personal excellence, but I still will always have questions. I choose to live each day happy, not looking back, no regrets, striving to be better than I was the day before. Being abandoned at birth has given me a new chance at life, which has been my anthem, my journey, and my inspiration. I thank you all for being part of my journey. It's been a wild and crazy ride, and it's been a pleasure sharing it with you. Live life to the fullest and leave a smile always. Thank you.
Every day the world awakens. People dream of what awaits them, getting ready to go on out and find their world. Every day we fly, we're showing the experience of knowing what the world wants when they want to fly the world. And we fly the world the way the world wants to fly. And we fly the world the way the world wants to fly. Who wants to go and find the world. There's a world that we can show you. Through the years we got to know you. We know what you want when you want to fly the world. And we fly the world the way the world wants to fly. And we fly the world the way the world wants to fly. Fly the world the way the world wants to fly. We fly the world the way the world wants to fly. We fly the world the way the world.
Experience is knowing what to do. We've done it all before, over and over and over.
going.
Wait, 3, 2.
Wait. Start again.
Okay, 3, 2. Thank you.